Welcome to Patrick's Book Reviews. All right, so you'll notice today we're not in the normal indoor studio. I'm actually outside because right now in Thailand it's the cold season. So this is kind of the rare time of the year where I can actually be outside without sweating profusely. So it feels good to be out here. And I have shorts on today. My first time wearing shorts in the video. Normally during the cold season, I don't normally wear shorts because it's the one time of year where it's comfortable to wear pants, and I like to wear long sleeve shirts and whatnot. But today I don't have to go to the office to teach. So when I teach, I have to wear pants. But today I teach online, so I figured I'd wear shorts since I haven't worn shorts in a long time. Sure you're very excited to hear about that. Here in the yard, we're out in the golden bamboo section of my yard. It's actually kind of close to my neighbor's house, so hopefully I'm not freaking them out or anything. They're probably wondering why I'm talking to myself out here, but maybe they're not home. My house is actually over that way, and so you may hear some motorcycles and whatnot going by like right now. But I do have the microphone set up, I think, so it's supposed to do some kind of like canceling out some of those sounds. So we'll see if that actually works. So a while back, maybe a month ago, a little more than a month ago, I made my 50 books that I wanted to read before I turned 50 years old. And I did that because I saw another YouTuber by the name of Book Things. He made a video, 50 books that I want to read before I turn 50. And at the time of that video, I calculated, and it was exactly 50 months until I turned 50. So I was like, that's a great idea. And I wanted to hurry to get the video up, so I could say it was 50 months until I turned 50, basically. Nice round number, and it's easy because then I only need to average one book from that list each month. So I made the list in haste, basically. I got to like 30 something and I realized like maybe I don't have 50 books I really want to read right now. So I was kind of trying to fill the list with whatever I could find. And what I ended up doing, I was attempting to read kind of more modern fiction. So I threw a lot of that in there. And I also realized there's some kind of magical realism type books that I don't really care about too much either. So what I'm doing today is I'm kind of amending that list. I'm making some changes because there's just some books on there, honestly, I don't want to read. So I don't want to force myself to read books I don't want to read. And so today I'm just going to go through. I'm only changing 6 of them, I think. And I'm going to give myself leeway to change up to 10. So maybe if there's 4 more I want to change before I get done, I'll do that. And so I'll just go through those. I have my notes from the first video. And actually these, let me see. Yeah, so the first book that I'm going to replace is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. That was number 17 on my original list. And the reason I'm replacing that one, first, it's my son's book. Actually, it's not mine. And so I don't feel too bad about that. It's kind of a book that, I don't know, I guess it has a lot of references to 80s pop culture and stuff. And it's something about gaming. And when I thought about it, I see it on the shelf and I just don't really want to read it. And I do have some other books on here that my son has read. So, Lord of the Flies was one of them. And pretty sure there's one more book on here that he's read as well. So I don't feel too bad about cutting this one off. So I'm cutting this off and I'm replacing it with John Williams. Now he's an author I want to read. And he has 3 major novels. I think his first novel was Butcher's Crossing. And then there's Stoner, which is the most famous one that I hear talked about a lot. And then his last novel of the 3 major ones, I think was Augustus was what it was called. And that was like historical fiction, obviously about Augustus Caesar. And so I want to read all 3 of those books, but I'll just put Butcher's Crossing as the official one on the list. I see he has an American Library edition with all 3 of those books, so I'll probably just pick that up. And then moving on, okay, the next one, another kind of modern fiction one, and that was The Passage by Justin Cronin. And, it's kind of an apocalyptic horror tale. And I'm just getting kind of bored of apocalyptic tales. And I have a lot of dystopian kind of classics already on this list. So I didn't feel like more, to be honest. It sounded a lot like The Stand, which I recently read. So I don't feel like going through all that. Another fairly modern one. And so I'm replacing that with Wendell Berry. And I was kind of kicking myself when I didn't put him on my original list because he's someone that I had read maybe more than 10 years ago. I was reading a lot of Wendell Berry, and I really liked him a lot. And for some reason, I just stopped, or I forgot. At that time, I was getting a lot of library books from my Kindle, and I think I just read maybe 3 of his novels, 3 or 4, and at that time they didn't have any more. So that's, I think, why I stopped at that time. I wasn't able to get his books over here. But now I realize that I can get his books. And so I was kind of digging around a little bit, and I'm really excited. I was waiting to do this video until I got this, and this just came in the mail yesterday. I got the American Library edition of Wendell Berry. And so they're doing all of his Port William, Port William series. So that's, I believe, a fictional town in Kentucky. And all of his novels and short stories center around that town. And this is the first volume. And it's cool because this doesn't look like a very big book, but the way that American Library does it is, the print's not super small, so that's good. But the pages are super thin. So this is actually over 1,000 pages. It contains, I think it contains 4 novels. 4 novels and a bunch of short stories. It's pretty cool too. They have a map of the town in there and a family tree in the back. And it comes with this nice little ribbon too. And so I'm just going to count this whole book as a book on it, even though it's 4 novels and a bunch of short stories. But the thing that's really cool about what the American Library did with it is they're putting these in chronological order, narrative chronological order. So the order of the story, and it's mixing his short stories with his novels. So this one goes from the Civil War to World War II. So it's kind of the history of the town and the people in that town until World War II, obviously. So this first short story takes place during the Civil War. And then they're just mixed together in narrative chronological order. So it'll go, there will be quite a few short stories, then there will be a novel, then more short stories, then a novel. And that's not how his books were published. They're just kind of all over the place in publication order. And so Wendell Berry actually helped to organize this. And so this is the first volume. There's a second volume that came out, I think, 2024. And then the third volume, unfortunately, isn't yet out. I think this one was 2019 maybe, and then the second one was 2024. So I hope it doesn't take that long to get to the third volume, because that does have Jayber Crow in it, which is one of my favorite books of all time, probably. And so I'm really excited to reread Wendell Berry, and I'm really excited about the American Library editions. I'll probably be talking about those more when I talk about my reading plan for the next year. But yeah, it's a very beautifully done book. It looks super nice too. Even the everything just looks really, really nice, really well done. Kudos to the American Library. All right, and then the next book that's being cut off the list is Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. And I don't have a great reason for cutting this one off. It's just another one that I'm not all that interested in. I just heard about it and I thought oh, that sounds pretty interesting, but it's just not something I'm super passionate about. So I decided to cut that off the list. And I'm replacing that with a Graham Greene book, Monsignor Quixote, which is a kind of Graham Greene take on Don Quixote, obviously. And I'm planning on reading this after I read Don Quixote. So I think in maybe March, I'm going to read Don Quixote. I think I'll also read the short story by Borges about Don Quixote as well, and then read this. So I'll kind of throw all those together to do a Don Quixote themed month. This will be the second book that I've read by Graham Greene, and I also read The Power and the Glory. I like that book a lot, and I've heard really good things about this book as well. And I was very happy to find, when I'm ordering books, I'm really trying to order hardcover books now, for two reasons. One, I just like them a lot better, and secondly, when I'm ordering paperbacks now, they're always coming in these kind of bubble wrap envelope things, and they always get smashed up when they're getting sent. I don't know what they're doing, if they're playing frisbee with them on the cargo plane or what. Oh, hey Lucy. Hey, you want to be in the video? There's my dog Lucy, and Susie's coming too. They just figured out that I'm over here. These are my two dogs at this house. We have three little dogs at the other house. And these are actually, they're muddy though. These are actually stray dogs when they were puppies. They're just little puppies, and they came over, and I gave them some food and water, and then they've been here ever since. So now they're my faithful guard dogs, Lucy and Susie. But anyway, so this book I found on Amazon. This was used, obviously, and this is a book club edition, so it's not a first edition, but still very nice, and it's like in absolutely perfect condition. This came out in 1982. I still have the receipt in here. Yeah, so I paid $6.99 for this, and I had free shipping as well to get it, because I had a big enough order that you get the free shipping. And so just like a super nice book, cheaper than the paperback, and why wouldn't you want this? Why wouldn't you want this? So I'm very excited to have that. So yeah, Graham Greene is replacing Kate Atkinson. Kate Atkinson, is that right? Yeah. My dog stepped all over my list too, so that's muddy now. I'm all muddy. All right. As long as they don't mess up the books. The next book to be replaced doesn't really fit into the criteria I gave earlier for why I'm replacing books, but this is a Ghost Story by Peter Straub, because that was written in 1979. But it is a horror book, which I don't feel like I need that much of in my life. I'm not much of a horror fan. And so I'm going to replace that with John Dos Passos' USA trilogy. So that's obviously 3 books that he wrote, and I don't remember the titles of them all, but 3 books that he had written, and I think they're also not in kind of chronological order as far as time goes. The publication order is not in chronological order, but those are kind of early 20th century novels about life in America, and they sound very interesting. I've heard good things about them. They're also available in the American Library Edition, and I can get all 3 of those in one hardback for fairly cheap. So I'm going to definitely go that route. And if you've read that trilogy, I'd be interested to know, is it better to read it in publication order or in the chronological narrative order? And then the next book that I'm taking off the list is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Again, just another kind of modern book that I don't care too much about, modern fiction. And so I'm replacing that with Master and Commander by Patrick O'Brian. And the reason I'm reading this book, this is like the beginning of I think 20 book series or 20 plus book series. So I don't know how far I'll make it in this series. I'm not committing to the entire series, but the main reason I chose this book is I really am enjoying Bernard Cornwell's historical fiction, and I saw on one of his books, like one of the quotes from one of the little blurbs or whatever said, he's like the best thing since Patrick O'Brian. So then I didn't know who Patrick O'Brian was, so I looked him up. Then I realized, like, oh, he's the Master and Commander guy. I haven't seen that movie or anything, but I've heard of it. And yeah, so this sounded pretty interesting. So I ordered this book, and this is case in point why I don't like ordering paperbacks. You can see this is how it came. This is a new paperback, and this is what I ended up with from Amazon. So uh, yeah, when I order a hardback, they put it in a box with like the brown paper sack paper on it, and so it doesn't get knocked around. But the paperbacks are just in these stupid sack things, and they always end up, not always, but usually they end up with at least some damage. And this one I wanted to get in hardback, but it's very expensive. At least the first one it's hard to get a hardcover edition of it, a secondhand one. So, and the paperback was cheap, so that's why I went that route. Yeah. The next novel I'm throwing off the list is kind of a classic, actually, or it is a classic, but it kind of falls under the magical realism realm for sure. It's 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, I think. I can't read my own handwriting. And that one, I've heard quite a few people talk about it, and I've been hearing some negative reviews of it as well. Earlier, I was hearing positive things, and I didn't know too much about it. But the more I hear about it, kind of the less I want to read it. I don't know. I'm just not into magical realism. I think it also has like incest or something stupid like that in it. So I don't care. And so the book I'm replacing it with is Philip Roth's The Plot Against America. You can see this this book is covered in swastikas. Yeah, and this is a book that I got for free. So this guy had died, and I got like garbage bags. My wife and I got like garbage bags full of books, and this one was one of the ones that I'd originally seen, and I'd heard of Philip Roth, but I don't really know much about him. And I saw it, and the premise of it sounded like super interesting. It does sound super interesting. It's it's a kind of like alternate history one where in 1940, Charles A. Lindbergh defeats FDR and he becomes president. And of course, he's extremely isolationist. So America doesn't join in World War II. And then there's all kinds of anti-Semitism within America. And that's all I really know about the book. But I'm always kind of fascinated by those books that kind of speculate on what might have happened if something changed in history. And I've looked at some other Philip Roth books as well, and he's kind of someone I'd like to get into as well. So if I like this book, he's also on the American Library. They have a bunch of his stuff. So he's got a famous trilogy as well, and I can't remember the name of it, but I'd like to get into him as well. I just always felt weird, like a long time ago, I put this on my bookshelf, and then like I was always seeing the swastika on it. And so I took it back to our office where all the other books are that I never wanted. They're just the ones we got for free. We just have them on shelves there, and I'd kind of thrown it back there behind some other books, so students weren't always seeing swastikas all the time. But then I remember that I had a copy of it, so I went back and got it. And yeah, it's kind of interesting because I feel like right now, there's kind of similar sentiment, I guess. I've heard like some far right people, revisionist historians, that are arguing that it was really Winston Churchill who was the bad guy, not Hitler. He was really pushed into World War II, which of course is ridiculous. But then also, I think there's a lot of anti-Semitism on the far left as well. So it's kind of like the far right and the far left are coming together in their anti-Semitism. So it feels like a apt time to read this book. And the last book on this list that I'll be replacing is Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon, which actually came in at number 50 on the list. So you can probably guess that it wasn't one that I was dying to read anyway. And I didn't know that much about it, but now I've heard a little bit more about it. And it seems like one of those books that A, might be fairly confusing, and B, the premise of it sounds really stupid. Like it's based on a promiscuous soldier, and everywhere that he goes to have sex with someone, basically that's where the next Nazi bombing occurs, or something stupid like that. And whatever, I don't feel like reading that, and so I'm changing it out with Beloved by Toni Morrison. And so this one, I've got a few different reasons why I threw this on the list. First, I've never been interested in Toni Morrison particularly. Like, I just remember hearing her name a lot when I was in university, and I just never had the impulse to like read one of her books, so I didn't. But I've been hearing a lot about her on BookTube, because I've kind of, because of the American Library, I'm looking to read a lot more American classics, and she's one, like, on every list of the greatest American classics. I feel like everyone's throwing her at number one, which kind of makes me suspicious. But also I'm hearing a lot of like, if you must read Toni Morrison, you must read Beloved. If you don't read it, you're not an American. And so when I hear something like that, it kind of makes me want to do one of two things. One is just not read the book, because it annoys me when people are like, you have to read this. And two, I kind of want to read it and then not like it, so I can be that guy that's like, actually, Beloved kind of sucks. However, the more I've heard about the actual book, I'm very intrigued by it, because I don't know if some of it's been spoiled to me, so I'm not going to spoil it. But from what I've heard, I don't know, because sometimes something major will happen right at the beginning of a book, so it doesn't really matter if you hear it. But from what I understand, something really bad and tragic happens or is performed by one character to another character to prevent something terrible happening to that character in the future, I guess, if that makes any sense at all. And so I'm just kind of interested in, like, is she justifying the first terrible act or not? And I don't know if the book really covers that or not, but that just got me kind of really intrigued to read this book. And so, I hope I like it. And if I do, I'll definitely read a lot more Toni Morrison. I wasn't trying to hate on her. The last thing with the 50 book list, as far as changing books, I do have a loose rule that if there's an author that's on the list, I can feel free to change the title. It doesn't have to be the book that I originally put on the list, as long as it's the same author. But I can only read one book from that author that counts against the 50 on the list. So anyway, one of the books on there was A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving. And I'm not decided yet. I still do kind of want to read that book. It sounds like the most interesting of his books. But when I was digging in the office for that Philip Roth book yesterday, I found that I do actually have, from that same guy, I have two beautiful John Irving paperbacks. And these were other ones that I had added to my bookshelf at one time. But then I was getting, in my head, I confused John Irving with John Updike, because they both have the name John. That's not a very common name. And so I was thinking, John Irving's John Updike. And I had tried to read Run, Rabbit, Run. And I just thought that book sucked. Like, I hated that book. And so I didn't want to read it. I was like, I don't want to read these books because it's the same, like, crappy author. But then when I was looking yesterday, I was like, oh, wait a minute. It's actually John Irving. I also confused these two authors, weirdly, with Sinclair Lewis. All three of those authors in my head, they always get confused for me. But I think I've got it straightened out now. But anyway, so I saw these two books. And I love these. I purposely looked on Amazon to see, like, what the covers look like now. And of course, they're like the modern ones. Like I always say, they're always terrible. They're way worse. These ones are awesome, especially the one with the dog, because it's actually from what I read, it's in the dog. In the book, there's a stuffed dog. And so you can see the stuffed dog is kind of coming apart to the family pet. And so I was thinking about reading one of these two instead of reading Prayer for Owen Meany, because I'd probably have to read Prayer for Owen Meany on my Kindle. I could get it free from the library, but I do like to read a physical copy of a book. And the cover of Prayer for Owen Meany looks absolutely horrendous too. So I'm not going to buy that unless I can find a better looking cover of it, because I do judge a book by its cover. And so this is actually John Irving's first book. And so that might be a good place to start. However, it doesn't sound that good. The reviews it had were not as good as the other one. But I would like to show you. This is, so if you don't live in Asia, this probably means nothing to you, but there's a bookstore here called Asia Books, and that's the most common chain bookstore where you'll find English books. And this is like the guy who bought this must have been in either the late 80s or early 90s. And so it's got like a really old Asia book sticker on it. It looks way different than it does now. And on the inside, first off, it's got a cool picture of John Irving, but it's got an actual old Asia book stamp. So this feels like a little piece of Thai English book history. But anyway, this one actually sounds like the more interesting story. It's got a dog in it. I love dog books. And yeah, it's kind of about a family that runs a hotel, I guess. And it's just kind of it's a family saga. And there are bears in this one as well. You'll never forget the bears, it says. So even though it doesn't have a bear on the picture, like this one, apparently there are yet bears in the story. And yeah, the reader is held spellbound as the family Labrador, Sorrow, is first stuffed, then becomes the victim of a cruel plane crash. So I think I want to read this book now. So I'll probably replace A Prayer for Owen Meany with The Hotel, New Hampshire. But if you've got any John Irving hot takes, or if you don't think these are the place to start, do let me know. Especially if you've read one of these two, I'd be more interested in which one you think is better. But I know these aren't among his most famous works. Obviously, A Prayer for Owen Meany, I think The World According to Garp, and Cider House Rules are kind of the big ones you hear about. So yeah, just let me know. And while I'm talking, real quickly, I'll just pop up the updated top 50 list. So here it is. Here's the first 25, and then the second 25. And so you can see the color changes for the ones that I changed out. And then you'll also notice near the beginning of the list, I've now finished or nearly finished 2 books off the list, which is about right because this is the first 2 months. And so I'll give you a quick update on what those are. So the first book I read off the list was The Archer's Tale by Bernard Cornwell. And I absolutely love this book. I think probably at the end of January, I'll read the second book in this series. No, I might actually do that at the end of this month if I finish my book early, which I think I will. So I'll do that real quick. And it's a 4-book series, so this is only book 1, but I absolutely loved it. I gave it a 9.5, and I really, really want to read more Bernard Cornwell. But I own all 4 books in this series now. And then the second book, I'm just including it because I'm just about done with it. It's a chunker, though. It's like 1,100 plus pages. This is Shogun, not Shogun. Now when I originally got this book, I was thinking Shogun because there's kids in Thailand. I've had a student before, and his nickname was Shogun. And anytime you see an Asian language, I know this is true for Thai, and I also found out it's true for Japanese too. When it's written out like, phonetically in Latin letters, it's called Latin letters. I don't know, but in Latin letters, the U is always actually a double O sound. So when you see something, if it has this over the O, yeah, that's a long vowel sound. So sho, and then goon. And so I was thinking that, but I kept hearing other booktubers saying Shogun, Shogun, Shogun. So I heard Shogun like a million times. I was like, oh, that must be right. And then last night I was teaching a student of mine online who lives in Bangkok, and she's studying Japanese right now. So we were talking about that, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm reading a book about Japan right now. And she said, I said, it's Shogun. And she's like, oh, Shogun. Yeah, I know that one. And I was like, so it is Shogun. And she's like, yeah, she said in Japanese, it is exactly what I thought. Like they pronounce it as Shogun. And so I was thinking, I was going with her because I do trust her. She's quite smart. And then, but before I did this video, I was like, I better take just a quick peek online to see if I can figure this out. And so I looked up the pronunciation, and in Japan, it is pronounced Shogun. That's 100% correct. But they said the American pronunciation is Shogun, which is a bit ridiculous because it is a Japanese word and it's easy to say Shogun. I think it's just Americans just see the and they think gun, and it sounds like a gun too. You know, in America, we love our guns, so it's Shogun. But yeah, so and James Clavell, of course, he's either American or English. Oh, okay. James Clavell lived for many years in Vancouver and Los Angeles before settling in Switzerland, and he was originally the son of a Royal Navy family. So I'm guessing perhaps he was born in England and then moved to Vancouver, unless maybe they were British, English, Canadian, whatever, and then lived in America and Switzerland. So he's been all over the English speaking world, and I'm not sure how he actually pronounced it. So I guess technically, if he called it Shogun, he could name it. He could name it Shogun. I guess that's his right as the author, but it's pronounced Shogun. And another thing is, you know, like in the Karate Kid, right? Like Mr. Miyagi, he's always saying Daniel-san, Daniel-san. And, you know, in Japanese, they put the san at the end of the word as a, you know, it's a respectful way to talk. And in this book, they have that too. And san, it sounds like how you would think Shogun, right? But in the book, it's spelled S-A-N. And so, yeah, anytime you see a S-A-N, usually it's going to be a sound like sun, gun. But if you see a U, it's the double O sound, ooh, so Shogun. So I really think it's Shogun. I think James Clavell knew that. He obviously had a lot of knowledge of Japan and Japanese language. And so I'm guessing he called it Shogun as well. But if you're an expert on this, let me know. But I'm going with Shogun until I officially hear otherwise. We'll say Shogun is the definitive title. So you can feel free to say Shogun. Correct everyone who says Shogun. Let them know how stupid they are. It's Shogun, Shogun, Shogun. All right. So that wraps up this video. Let me know what you think. Are you heartbroken that I took any of those books off the list? You know, or are you excited about any of the books I added to the list? Are you a fan of the Library of America editions of books? There's somebody walking in the background. If you are, you know, let me know. In my next video will be my reading plan for 2026, and I do plan on talking about the Library of America because I do plan on buying a lot more of those books and series. But thank you so much for watching, and please feel free to leave some comments in the comment section. I always do appreciate that when I actually get some comments. And yeah, see you later.